confirmation on the channel, I will let you know that we are live. We are live. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Danny Thompson, and I'm with Kirsten Johnson. She's the engagement manager at her company, and she's definitely very knowledgeable on the hiring process. She helps hire engineers all the time. She knows what to look for when it comes to standing out with your LinkedIn profile. She's very knowledgeable on the whole idea of bringing value to an interview. And so we're going to try and pick her brain as much as we can today and get you exactly where you need to be. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kirsten. I genuinely appreciate that.
Thank you for having me today.
All right. So one of the first questions I want to ask is, when you do look for a candidate, what are the things that you're trying to look for? What stands out for you?
Biggest items that stand out to me is more on how a person thinks, especially when we're in technology. It never comes down to, okay, so I know Java and I know Angular. It gets a little bit too much, especially with wanting to look into full stack development or knowing databasing. So technology to me can always be learned. It's all about your drive, initiative, and how much you know about technology that is growing throughout the world.
Okay, fantastic. So is there an echo? Okay.
I don't hear it.
I was just making sure before I continued. So one of the questions that I normally ask is, when it comes to, let's say, a LinkedIn profile, is there certain things that you're looking for on that profile? What would that be?
Certain things would be, what have you achieved in your project, or what kind of solutions have you made? So you saw that we are trying to go into an autonomous CI/CD type portfolio. Well, what is it that you contributed to that CI/CD process to make it run better and make the client or your company work better in the long run? So any examples is a big trigger for me. Another one is the reviews. If you get people to review on your LinkedIn, it instantly draws my eyes to them to see how they are talking about what you helped with, what you worked with, or etc.
Fantastic. Now, we've definitely got some people here in the chat. So if you have questions, please do not hesitate throwing them into the chat. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get this started since we have people here. And I'm going to share my screen, put this here, and I will bring this here, and we will get started. All right, let me go ahead and hide this, drop this. Is that on the thing? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our first profile is Danny Stenman. We're going to go about it section by section. You tell me what you like, what you dislike, if there's areas we can improve on. So first impressions, this is what we have. What do we think about this area?
So first impressions, to be honest, the pink seems to be drawing my attention to anything else on here. And then I know it's because I can't full screen this, and that just may be a me thing, but it's really hard to see all those little details. Oh, thank you.
Does that help? There we go.
It helps, but it's still very hard to see.
So basically the details are the AWS certs that I believe he has in security, advanced networking, solutions architect, DevOps engineering, solutions architect, sys ops administrator, and developer. And there's 5 that are unhighlighted.
So I'm guessing the ones unhighlighted are the ones he doesn't have?
That would be my assumption as well.
Okay. It's good to definitely highlight your certifications, especially in something that you are really good at and you've mastered. It just seems kind of out of place where it is, and it just draws my attention in the wrong way, but that could just be me personally.
I could see that. So when it comes to a header image, is there something that you prefer in this section? Like, what would you like to see generally in this area, if you have some idea?
Generally in this area is something a little bit clever that states you as a person more than you and your career. Especially easy colors too tend to help. Blues tend to really highlight and used a lot in technology as well as professional portfolios that I've seen a lot, and it just makes it easier on the eyes.
Okay. And one thing that we will be doing. So is that coming from your side or is it my side?
I'm sorry, there's a car just driving right by.
Okay. Like I feel like I hear myself. That's what I was saying. But basically what we're to give you an idea of the metrics, we will be rating each profile from 1 to 10. 5 and below means I'm not going to call this person. 5 and above, above 5 means I'll be calling them for further information. And of course, the higher that score, obviously, it means better. So we've got that section. Now we're in his about section. So are you the type of person that likes a very short, sweet, to the point about section, or are you one that likes all the details in this area?
You clicked read more and my eyes just went big. I like short and sweet.
I agree. My rule of thumb is your about section should say, this is who I am, this is why you should love me, and it should read in 15 seconds or less. The stats that I've normally seen, the industry standards around, a hiring manager spends about 6 seconds or so before deciding whether they're going to invest more time into this person or go on to the next. And it could be up to 10 seconds or so. But you want to try and provide that information as easy as possible to access. Don't hide it and don't make them work for it, because if they work, they're going to move on to the next candidate. But
exactly.
We're here now. And do you agree with that stat? Do you think it's 6 to 10?
Yeah, I really do, because right now I'm trying to scan it as you're talking and my eyes just can't seem to focus.
Yeah, there is a lot here. I would definitely cut this down myself if I was going to be honest, because if we grow, and obviously I'm zoomed in a little bit, so this is not helping. But if I just want to see what this is zoomed out normally. So yeah, so if I open this and it's taking up more than the whole page, and I still have to scroll, we're way too far into where we need to be. But I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's just no way.
From what I scanned, just to give a little, I don't know, trick here. It's great to definitely mention about CI/CD, especially with DevOps, especially working in AWS cloud, but make it light and cheerful. Or maybe something to the point. I personally really like putting jokes in my about me because it grabs an attention. It says something clever or witty, and then it kind of goes into a small detail. But
Okay.
if your personality isn't jokes, something that can just say, you know, that you are a CI/CD professional and you are clear and cut, but say it in maybe 4 sentences max, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me ask you this. Are you the type of person that thinks someone should have like their languages or their skills listed in there about me? For example, let's say they're a React developer. Do they have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React in there? Or would you prefer that somewhere else?
I would prefer that somewhere else, especially
Okay.
in the technology world, because
Mhm.
goodness gracious, the skills people have to come up with nowadays, it can be a longer list than what we see here.
Sure. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and skip that. Now we're in the featured section. Let me zoom out a little bit. So this is the featured section. What do you think about this?
I like this. I feel like there may be a lot to scroll through, but I actually like this.
Yeah. So for me, the most expensive piece of real estate on your LinkedIn profile is your featured section.
Mhm.
You should have what I call the hook. As soon as they see this, they need to be like, okay, I need more information about this person here. So as we scroll through, that's Danny, obviously. So he's only got 3 things there. But I think for the most part, I think he's done this right. I know that you're an AWS champion. You've
Mhm.
got your certs, and this is about you. I think that's perfect in my opinion.
I think so
Uh,
too.
Now, this question I ask everybody, are you a person that when you're looking at a profile, does the follower count matter to you at all? Or is that really not valuable? What do you think?
To me, it's really not valuable. Now, if I was looking for a CEO, maybe I might really start counting there. But
Yeah.
if we're looking for developers, whether senior or junior, I don't really worry too much about followers.
I agree with that, and I've said this on every stream so far, and I'd like to reiterate it. Your follower count does not equate to your value as a developer. It has nothing to do with it. The only thing that it can bring you are possibly more conversations to have. And the only thing, and I say this all the time as well, you never know where one conversation can take you and the value that one conversation could possibly bring. I can't tell you how many times I've been presented with an opportunity just because I spoke to someone a couple months ago about something. So that is the only reason why I care about followers. I don't care about followers like if you have a lot or a little. That's the only reason why I add followers is because I never know where that one person can lead me, but it doesn't equate to your value at all. All right.
Absolutely. More about
So
connection
now,
than following.
exactly. Exactly. So we're in the experience section. Obviously, he has his partner profile right here. So what do we think about this? So when I expand it, it's got a lot there.
Mhm.
How long do you traditionally like these sections as well?
I actually like what he did, where it's going to be a quick overview of what he did in the project and then did some qualities and skills at the bottom of that, because that will let me know, is this what I'm looking for in the project? And if so, what skills did he use?
Okay. So I agree for the most part. I do like this. And the only thing I wish that he did, and I say this all the time, when you're listing your qualifications or your job experience, try to give something quantitative. Like, give me something that you've done that actually represents metrics and values. Like, I increased the business by 5%, or, I helped streamline this project, or something where a number is represented somewhere that means what you've actually contributed to a project or something. But, and that's the one thing that I've noticed, at least in my few years doing this now, where that number can also be brought up in an interview where you can talk about it as well. Do you agree with that or disagree?
100% agree, because people will instantly follow the number. And so, especially working in cloud and DevOps, you can get some numbers there.
1 second. All right, we have an interesting question from the chat. Uh, the question is, do you think LinkedIn Premium is worth it? Do you think there's any value in that?
Personally, I don't. I
I
feel
agree.
I feel like you can still connect and have a valuable meaning. I think it's good for people who are looking to hire, because you can connect to more people without having to go through stuff. But as a person who's just on LinkedIn, you'll still get the same connects.
I'll be completely honest with you. I tried the free trial where it gives you like a free month or whatever, and I went through every aspect that I could. And my wife knows that I'm notorious at wasting money on the dumbest things in the world, and I could not find a reason to throw the money at this thing. Like, it just wasn't there for me. I think if you are in a hiring position, or if you want to take advantage of their learning, like they have like online lessons, and if that's something you're interested in, then the value is there. Personally, I think you could probably get a lot more value out of something like Pluralsight or Front End Masters or something like that, as opposed to the LinkedIn Learning or even Coursera. But I don't think Linda Learning is that valuable in my opinion. But if you feel that it is, go ahead and knock yourself out. Or if you can get the free month, I'd say go take the free month.
True.
Plus, I'm just some person. Take, and please don't take, like, consult your doctor before taking my advice. Okay, so if you think my advice is wrong, definitely do your own research and find out. This is just what I'm saying that I've went through. All right, and so we have the same thing with this right here. The only thing that I think, and he has the same partner profile here. The only thing that I think is lacking is the quantitative measurements. But other than that, I think this section is great. I think all these sections are pretty good. Then we've got his education area. Then we have his certs. Now, are you someone that's big on certs? Do you not think certs really matter?
So I go both ways. I do like seeing a certification because it means they went the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But if we're talking, you're a senior and you've been in it to 15 years, yeah, probably look for some certification, see where you're at, what you've been doing to progress. But if we're having a junior who's up to 5 years, I tend not to really worry too much about the certifications.
Well, so let me rephrase that, because AWS certs, yeah, throw them on there. What
Yeah.
about like a YouTube cert or like a Udemy cert?
No, not really. I tend to look for either technical like AWS, PCF, even right now, Safe Agile or Scrum, anything for those certifications tend to be really good as well for me.
All right. Yeah. So basically, my rule with cert is if it's a heavy weighting cert like AWS or Oracle, yeah, throw it on there. If it's Udemy, YouTube, I wouldn't spend any extra money to get that cert. But if you have it and you don't have anything else, throw it on there. Certs are like prayer; it can't hurt, right? So if you've got it, throw it on there. Otherwise, it's not the end of the world. Now, the skills and endorsements for you, does this weigh at all for you, or is that something you eyeballed? Is this something you take into consideration?
It is something I definitely take in consideration. I like looking at them, seeing what you put, but I look for odd skills too. So, such as communication or client interaction, problem solving. Just those small little things tend to help as well.
That's really good. And if I know that we have quite a few people in the chat right now, and if any of them know me, I'm big on soft skills matter. So and I didn't even consider that being in the skills and endorsements, to be honest with you. And that's a very good point. If you have communication on there and 20 people say you're a good communicator, I think that would go to say that you'd be very valuable on a team as opposed to just knowing AWS or something like that. I've never considered that before. So that's actually a really good point. Now, recommendations, do you go through them? Do you glance at them? Or do you just skip this section? What is it for you?
I actually read through them. I like to see what people have said and what they experienced, especially here. I mean, we see already there has been improvements, or they're knowledgeable, fast to work, fast to get up to the skills that they need. That's fantastic to hear.
Very cool, very cool. Now, accomplishments, and now we're in the interest section. Do you ever look at the interest section or not really? Do you go through it?
Not really, because that's where I like to go for the next stage of interview is talk about interests, but technology interests and kind of get to know you as a person.
Right. Yeah. So I've never really considered this section. It wasn't until I interviewed Kirsten the other day, and Kristen said she actually goes through it to see if you're following companies around your town, because she says as a hiring manager, it lets her know that you're very interested in your tech sector. So I've been throwing this in every video since then, just in case you get a hiring manager like Kristen. You may want to like a couple things around town just in case. I've never really paid attention to it, but ever since then, I've liked a couple in my city now. I mean, it'll take you 5 minutes to find 5 companies to like. So, might as well.
That's
But
true. I'm
yeah.
going to go the other way on this. So my company is extremely worldly. We have places anywhere you can think of. So my curiosity wouldn't be about what kind of interest you have in there, but more about the technology that is completely new that is being utilized in different places of the world. And to give you an example for logistics, especially during the COVID-19, I mean, I had a conversation with someone where we were talking about how in India, how FedEx is doing stuff technology wise completely different in India that we can't do in the US. And it brings up really good conversations and topics and lets me know that you're paying attention to the world technology wise.
That's interesting. All right. All right. So we've finished Danny's profile. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we at here? What do we think overall?
I would say a 7. I would.
I'm right there with you. I think Danny lost quite a lot of points in this section. So if we shorten this up and not make it a page and a half, then I think you'll actually get people reading through here. And so personally, I don't mind this either too much, because I obviously this is the only thing he's trying to be considered for it as an AWS cloud consultant. So the header, you're not a big fan of, but
everything else we're good.
yeah. So I'm with you on a 7 as well. I think that's a pretty good score. I do think that if we tweak it, we can definitely get that number up there. All right, we're on to the next one with Tony Fan. He's a follower, great guy. I actually glanced at his profile, and it's a pretty interesting one. So I'm interested to see what you think about this. So this is where we're landing here. What do we think about this?
So far out the back, I'm pretty excited. It seems new, refreshing. It's easy on my eyes. I am confused a little bit where it just says front end engineer, but we're seeing, okay, so we're working with VR, which is amazing, but how does that correlate with front end engineer?
I agree with that. That was the first thing I saw on this. And I said, if you're a front end engineer or front end developer or even back end developer, I always suggest having the first, like your main language that you want to be known for. So is it React? You're a React developer. You want to show up for React searches? Have that there. Or are you a Java person? Or since we're doing VR, maybe C# or Unity? Like something needs to be there that you pop up for. Because right now, and I don't think you're going to pop up for a lot of searches just going off of this part right here. And he definitely has LinkedIn Premium, so we can find out from him later on if he thinks there's some value in there. But all right, so let's move down here to his about. And this is another thing I'll say, just because I saw this right here. He's a full stack web developer, but you're a front end engineer. Keep the terminology consistent between these sections. If you're a front end engineer here, let's be a front end engineer here. Otherwise, if you're a full stack web developer, let's be a full stack web developer. Do you agree or disagree with that?
100% agree, because especially with people looking up, they put key items and keywords in there.
Exactly. So full stack web developer with a focus on JavaScript front-end technologies such as React, with experience with Node, Express. It's basically the MERN stack, Python, Postgres, and Mongo. Dependable and highly motivated problem solver with years of professional experience. So very short and sweet to the point. What do you think about this?
I like it, but we could add a slight bit more. What are you looking for? So are we looking for another JavaScript front end? Are you looking for something new to challenge you? What is it that makes you want to be out there?
Sure. All right. And now we've got our experience. I like this. So he's a data collection technician via Q analyst. So maybe the Q analyst is the company that he's contracted through for Oculus, perhaps. But so this section is operations assessment of prototype. What do we think about this?
The way we have it is pretty interesting. I would like to see more skills you got out of this and what you've accomplished. I just get a little bit confused because it's so different from what you said you are, from a front-end engineer to a data collection technician.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think, I don't know. You've been there for 2 years. I know you for sure you've accomplished something. I would like to have those accomplishments there. If you've had a job for any length of time past a year, you've done something to maintain that job. What was it? Like, don't just tell me what you did. Show me something that you took charge of, that you owned. Like there's something that could be there. Then he was a full stack developer, freelance for 7 months. And he did Paint Logic, and then he was a shop manager at Paint Logic before that for 7 years. So he transitioned, started doing some freelancing, I suppose, and then from freelancing he landed at Oculus. So maybe his end up goal is he's a data collection technician now, but his goal is to become a front end engineer instead of just working in data.
Right.
So, but here's the thing. So are you the type of person that you like this in paragraphs, or are you the type of person that likes bullet points?
I love bullet points.
I'm the same way, because I don't like the filler. Like, I don't want someone to tell me, oh, I'm a highly motivated person that worked on a 3D. I know you're motivated. I assume that already. I would like to know the concrete facts. And I love that he did this in the sections, consulted, prepped, all this and that. But then he went over here and just started writing out a paragraph. If you're going to do a paragraph here, you got to do it everywhere. If you're going to do bullet points here, you need to do that everywhere. Don't mix up your styling because there's no consistency. And like I even said yesterday, this and your resume should be flawless to an extent, because this is what you're giving to someone to say, give me 6 figures. Should the first impression be with an error or with something like flimsy or faulty, this is your first impression. You should make this the best thing about you, so that way you have the opportunity to talk on a phone interview or in-person interview. That is the only reason why I stress these kind of things.
And to add to that, right? So this is your best work we will ever see. This is you coming forward saying, look at how good I did. Look, I'm going to be the best person out there. And so we expect this to be perfect. Having misspelled words, having different ways you're doing that, that's also going to tell me that's how you're going to talk to the client, and probably worked. Or that's how you're going to start setting up reports. Maybe I could see maybe your code won't be perfect because this isn't perfect. It seems a little bit too much when you think of it that way, but people really do look at the particulars.
I completely agree. Completely agree. So we go down from here, which this section for the most part is pretty decent, and I like it. Especially even as you're coming from a career switcher standpoint, I think you've done this area so well, and then you really dropped it when you came here. Like everything before tech is great, and then once you got to tech, you kind of dropped the ball. I would personally fix that, especially since your goal is not to go back to being a shop manager. Your goal is to go further in tech. I would want to highlight these 2 areas in particular. All right. And so he was at GA, so he wrote that, and he was at the Academy of Art Institute. Now, I'm the type of person, I don't really care about education, but I do like it when someone lists things that they've done in their education. And sometimes I even prefer someone to add one of their projects in their education section to at least say, I completed this. Like this was my my final project that had me graduate or something like that, just to show their level of skill. What do you think about that idea?
Depending how recent in technology you are. So if you are, let's say, before 5 years, absolutely add on a school project. But if we're looking over 10 years, technology has way changed by then. And so
of course.
I'm waiting for time.
Yeah, let me back that. That is something I suggest for the career switchers that don't have experience in technology, or like the boot camp grads where you don't have that degree to fall back on, or to make up for your lack of experience. So let me preface that. In my mind, I said that. In reality, I didn't. I know, but that is the preface. And then, so this is something that Danny missed, and I was waiting to see this. What do you think about volunteering and the volunteer experience? Is that something that you're for, against?
I'm for it, but I don't hold it against you if you don't put it there.
Okay. So for me, I'm very big on volunteering, and let me explain why. If you volunteer at like your homeless shelter or anything in your town, number one, you're doing something very good for your community. You should definitely do that. But number two, homeless people aren't volunteering. Other people with jobs are volunteering. So you're also networking in that situation. You're meeting people around town, you're getting to talk about things, and you're meeting like-minded individuals that may let you know about other great things in your community. But number three, even if you volunteered 20 years ago, you can still include that on your LinkedIn, your resume. There's nothing in this universe that is a win-win-win, and they don't pay you in money. They pay you in the ability to talk about it. So you've literally done something that helps your community, that helps you meet new people, and you get to include it on your resume and LinkedIn. There's nowhere else you can do that. You can go volunteer for a weekend and talk about it for 10 years. So I'm a big volunteer person, because I've never seen someone see a volunteer section and was like, well, that's terrible. Like I think that's one of the easiest things that you can do on a weekend, and completely like give some extra, spice to your profile. That's my opinion on that. Take that for what it's worth, I suppose. Skills and endorsements. What do we think?
skills and endorsements. I like this. I just would like to see more soft skills here, to be honest.
Yeah, see, ever since you've said that, that's going to be something that I'm going to be looking for in the future. I've never considered soft skills in this area, but I just want to glance. Customer service, team building, leadership.
Mhm.
That's interesting, I suppose. I never really considered it. I wonder if I even have. Well, I think I have a couple in mind actually. Now I think about it. So now here, have you ever really opened this section up before, the project section? Is that something you go through, or?
No, I tend not to because I tend to just focus on the areas we put the projects of, what you've done. So no, maybe I should though.
Honestly, I'm pretty much the same. I don't really go through that section. And what's funny is I was with one of the hiring managers and I opened it, and the hiring manager said, "Oh, I didn't know that was collapsible." So I think that should let you know it's okay to put it in here. It can't hurt, right? But I would try to show these projects in a different section. And I think I just realized something as well. Yeah, we have no featured section. So we could be listing a couple of the projects that you're proud of in this section over here, especially since that's the most expensive piece of real estate on your profile. You should be taking advantage of that. And the interest. So scale of 1 to 10, what are we feeling about Tony?
Honestly, I would say a 4.
I'm kind of there with you. I also don't know after like this section if I would have continued myself. Just being
Yeah.
completely honest, I think there was a lot of conflicting messages and things that we definitely need to work on. I don't think you would have gotten a phone call if what I was looking for is a front end engineer,
Mhm.
or even I don't think I'd be looking for data collection. And here's another thing. I'm a big believer in I don't care what your company calls your position. You need to name it on your resume the industry normal terms. Because as a hiring manager or someone looking for an employee, I don't know what a data collection technician is, but I do know QA, I do know software engineer, I do know database engineers, things like that. So if your job is representative of a SQL specialist or a database person or something like that, I would list it as that. I wouldn't list it as whatever funky name your company comes up with. Like, if my position is that of a software engineer, but my company calls me a software maestro, like I'm gonna call myself the software engineer because nobody's looking for the maestro, right? So I think you're also hurting yourself on search results with this,
To give you a good
unless
example,
that's an industry term.
my position right now is senior consultant. That tells you nothing what I do.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So Tony, we've got a little bit of work, man. We got to get on this. All right. And so we have Christopher Vasquez from Miami. So this is the generic LinkedIn header that you get when you don't put anything. What do we think about this section?
I'm actually pretty happy with this. I see we're a full stack web developer. I get a couple of languages that we're good with. I don't really mind just having the blank LinkedIn background. That's fine for me.
Yeah, this is not like make or break at all for me. But only thing I suggest is not having every single language here because that's where it becomes messy, but just like the couple main ones that you know. And to be completely honest, if you just list React and Node or React and Mongo, everyone knows you're on the MERN stack. Like it's not a secret that, oh, I wonder if he knows Express. No, if you learn React and you learn Mongo and Node, I'm sure you've learned the rest. So I would, and obviously if you know React, I know that you know JavaScript. I would just kind of keep the rest of those for your about section or somewhere else. I would just try and keep this very direct to the point and just a couple languages that you want to land on searches for. But overall, not mad at it at all. And now we're in the about section. What do we think?
Um, okay, so I think I would want to know how, well, kind of a lot. So we just go into school and then we have over 10 years of experience. After a while, I just do not care about school. I don't. I care about you as a person here, what your interests are, what you're looking for. Are you up for challenges? Are you up for innovation? Bring more flair to the about me.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you. And here's the thing: I know that you graduated from Iron Hack because I see this up here.
Hmm.
And I'm going to know wherever you graduated from once we get to your education section. This really is not mattering or showing up in any searches. I'll also know that you have 10 years of experience below. What I need to know, and I had initially set out to further my career in network admin. So you're telling me that you decided to do something, then you failed and you didn't work out, and now you've gone for your second level of choices. Don't make whatever I'm choosing to select you for the losing consolation prize. Let me believe, even if it's not true, let me believe like this is what you set out to do. No need to tell me this right here. No, I think you're hurting yourself here instead of helping. Again, I'm assuming all this since I haven't seen your work experience yet, but I'm assuming this hasn't done you any favors, and no one's going to say, "Well, I wonder how he failed at being a network admin." Quickly fell in love with software. See, I think all of this should go personally.
We don't really need the specialties at the bottom there. We've put it on the top. Now the
Yeah,
about me, now it's going to go to your skills. It gets too much.
yeah. If you wanted to have this, I wouldn't have it up here. Don't double everything. Remember, we want everything to be short, sweet, to the point, and show up on searches. So in not too many spots. To be honest, I would totally rework your entire about section. I think you've made your about section more of a biography instead of this is what I can bring to this is the value that I can bring. One thing I always tell people all the time: don't go into an interview or in a conversation with an employer with a begging mindset or a I'm not good enough mindset. If you go with the begging mindset and you go into these interviews like, just give me a chance, just give me a chance, just give me a chance, they're not going to give you a chance. And the other thing with that is if you go and say, I'm going to give me a chance, you're letting me know that you're not good enough to be where I want you at. And now it's the burden is on me to do the heavy lifting. Instead, you need to go into these conversations and present yourself as I'm bringing value to this company. I am valuable. And if you give me a chance to be on this team, I will bring value to the conversation. Because if you bring value, they're bringing a checkbook. No one in history has ever turned down an opportunity to make money. And if you can present yourself as a way to do that, they will absolutely take you on. And that doesn't matter if you're coming from a junior or a career switcher standpoint, you can still bring value. You are absolutely valuable. I'm a big believer in every single human has greatness in them. I feel like greatness is as common as blinking because there's been a time in your life where you doubted that you could actually reach somewhere and you roached you I was going to say roached. I don't think that's the right word, but you did reach that pinnacle point. By reaching that point, you've literally tapped into your greatness. So you just need to tap into it. You are valuable. You are absolutely valuable, and you're going to bring value. So stop discounting your value here. This should be where you're presenting what value you'll bring to any company that considers you. I didn't mean to jump in that. I don't ever plan to get into these talks, and it just kind of happens. But also, there's no featured section. I would work on that. All right, so now we are at the experience section. What do we think?
I'm missing a lot here. So we have web developer. Great. What did we do? Carnival Cruise Line. So I know we're not in technical, but use this Carnival Cruise Line. Do you know how difficult it is to deal with clients on a cruise and you're stuck with them? Use that to your advantage. How did you work with them? Use those soft skills there. It's a big thing.
Absolutely. I think even as a project analyst, you can show a lot of value and quantitative measurements on what you did to successfully take care of your projects, how you helped lead whatever you were doing. You were there for 6 years. I guarantee you've done some major accomplishments within that time period. Also, like here, organize and design. I mean, it's not really telling a lot of what you did. You were and I love the journey that you went from a vacation planner all the way to project analyst. Like you've definitely rose up the ranks Give me something to, why would you leave? This is like you made the whole cake and then now it's icing time and you left it all out. Like, why would you not take advantage of this? And especially here, like you've been here for a year and 4 months. Why wouldn't you add what you've been doing? Things like that. Damn it, Vans is asking, can we ask questions? Of course you can. You can ask questions, and in between moments, we'll be answering questions as well. All right. And so we have head teller, maintain cash, builds, aids. How do you feel when someone has a very straightforward position like waiter, head teller? How should they go about trying to write out this section?
Oh, so there's so many ways. So when you go into technology, you have to be client-based, especially if you're dealing with like an on-site offshore model or you are really direct with the client. So server is one of the ones that you can make that work for them. You're a people pleaser. You want to satisfy the client to what they need. Just put that into terms that would really help you with your software projects as well.
I completely agree. Also, one side note to you, Kirsten, and the chat. I'm sharing this screen and I have the entire chat over here. So when you see me looking off, it's not that I'm ignoring or being disrespectful. It's I'm maintaining my view with you, but I know the webcam is here. I try to be mindful of it, but I know when someone else is speaking, I tend to look. But I definitely agree with what you said as well. And so here we have the education of the Iron Hack and his associates. I don't think it's necessary to have this in the about section. I think this is fine right here, though.
Mhm.
And then we have our volunteer at Vu's Church. I think this is great. Any comments, questions, concerns in this section?
Oh, I like how this is. This looks good to me.
I agree. Then we have our skills and endorsements
Mhm.
and languages. So overall, what are we thinking and feeling about Christopher?
So when I first looked at it, I was excited. I was like, okay, let's look more into this. But then as we go, I got less and less excited, especially when we just got to web developer with absolutely nothing to it. So we went from, I would say, 7 to about a 3 very quickly.
I think you hit it right on the nose. You expressed exactly what I was thinking and feeling. I was very excited when we got here, and I think we lost everything after this section. We don't have our featured section. We have a very long, drawn out about section that doesn't really describe anything that you would bring as value. And we've missed the mark completely in these two areas right here. So, Chris, I definitely think for sure that you could be back at a 7 if we make these tweaks. But right now it's a 3. You're not getting a phone call. So I would definitely think about this. Now let me ask you a question, Kirsten. Are you the type of person that thinks someone should fill out a lot of applications and submit applications and the resume everywhere? Or are you the type of person that thinks someone should network and leverage their network to try and find jobs? What camp are you in?
But remember, because you never know. And if you connect with people, you get options that you were unsure with. But if you just apply to a job, and even a job you think is out of your range, you can still get a call back.
I completely agree. I don't like filling out applications. I try to keep that minimal at best. I do heavily rely on my networks, and I have a great network now of hiring managers, recruiters, and decision makers at businesses. So I keep them within my network and constantly keep in touch. But also, I know that if the time comes, I can tap into that and start sending messages like, hey, have you heard about anything interesting or cool? Because one hiring manager knows another hiring manager. It's kind of like developers, right? Once you're a developer, you're going to know other developers. When you're a hiring manager, you're going to know other hiring managers. So just by even tapping into that one hiring manager, you may get tapped into several where they go out to lunch and someone's saying, well, I need a really good React developer. I was like, oh, I got an email from someone yesterday. That's a React developer. Maybe I should introduce you to. Just by sending that one message, you just ran into a hiring manager that you didn't know existed. So that's kind of where I am. Now we have Susan here. Susan is, well, I don't want to say anything yet. We'll talk after that. What are our initial thoughts on Susan?
The initial thoughts is I absolutely love it. So the profile picture in the background says a lot more to me than you can imagine because it fits with business analysis. It fits with results and looking up and researching. So I absolutely love this.
I completely agree. For me, out of the profiles that we've seen, this is a 10 out of 10. Like, this screams, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. I'm great at it. And I've been doing this for a couple of days. I don't think anyone has had as good of landing area as Susan has, in my opinion. Now we go down here. That's because we're connected. I'll close that. So the first thing, obviously, we don't have our featured section for sure, but we have her about. What do we feel about her about section?
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I like this first part. I really like this first section. It kind of feels like you took your cover letter and threw it in here, which isn't always bad, but I think it's a little bit too much for LinkedIn for the About Me.
I agree. I like where it starts, and I would like it to go straight into maybe not even key competencies, but maybe some like these technologies, and I would have them there, and that's where I would leave it. I think all of this is a lot, and unless you just really have someone that's really really interested in digging in this information, I don't see them reading it.
Same.
All right, we'll go down here. So she's a QA. What do we think about this?
Again, it's pretty much the same thing. What have you actually done in QA? And so, especially with QA, you can talk about so much how you have improved systems, how the systems now are even working better, what you've done. I would love to see more of that in here, but the items that she put in here are still very good.
Absolutely. And we'll go down here to senior business analyst. See, I feel like she's given that information here, but has
Mhm.
again, almost 9 years. So of course you've definitely done a lot. And this is almost a year now. But I'm sure within a year you've done something to quantify some kind of result. And for example, here, what did I just see? Manage UAT with test strategies. You created training materials. Like, you've done a lot that quantifies something. I would like to see that above as well. But overall, this is fantastic. And she spent a lot of time in Australia. Maybe she is Australian. So then over here, senior programmer and analyst. So she jumped from developer to analyst. She spent some good time here. So overall, what do we think about all her job experience?
Really like it, but I think she's missing one thing she could really jump on. And it's that she was a programmer that moved to analysis because she knows how hard it is to code. She knows how hard it is to actually get that pushing. So I would put that a little bit in the About Me section. But other than that, I absolutely love this.
I agree, and especially if her role is to stay, for example, in QA, she could literally highlight, I was a developer. I know exactly what you're looking for as far as testing and quality assurance goes, and I can look at this from both sides. That is an extra value that majority of QA analysts do not have, and you could really stand out in that arena if that's where you want to be. So
Absolutely.
we have her education, and then we have her certs, which is from LinkedIn and Udemy, Pluralsight, Test AU. Let's see. Personally, if it was me, I would have this and the Test AU certs at the top instead of at the bottom, because at the top, what do we have? Like SQL, continuous integrity. Like, none of this matters in the field that you're currently staying in. I would reorder these, in my opinion. Not that it matters as much, but it just kind of stands out when you went to Test Automation University and you have those certs there. I'd have them up.
Especially the ITIL, have that one first, especially for analysis.
I agree. And we have our skills and endorsements, and then we have our recommendations, and then we have her courses. So, what do we think about this?
Oh, I absolutely love how a lot of this is. I think she could definitely improve and really show, what she can do on this. But I think this is one of the better ones we've seen.
I agree. Where are we ranking this from 1 to 10?
I'm either an 8 or a 9, mostly because I know we could do just so much better, but at the same time, it's already so good.
So for me, this is a 7. That could be a 9, 9.5. And I think the biggest reason for that, for me at least, is the lack of featured section and tweaking this about section and the current job. Other than that, I think this is definitely one of the stronger profiles with those tweaks. All right. And now here's the thing about Susan. Susan is a follower of mine, but Susan is deaf. And her question, which was a very interesting question for me yesterday, was, should I put my disability on my LinkedIn?
I wouldn't, but not because people tend to see items, and this can even go to almost race or gender. And whenever I get those questions of what race are you, what do you see yourself as, I always say I don't want to answer, because when we're hiring, we have to hit a certain percentage. Now, honestly, being deaf may help you get a job, surprisingly enough. So if you think that would help, but sometimes having that having being deaf or anything could also turn people away, whether that's right or wrong. So it would be up to you. But instantly for me, if I saw you had it on there or you didn't, I would try to message you or contact you either way.
Right. I definitely understand to an extent it could definitely create some implicit bias. I was thinking about this for a good while yesterday, and I see both sides of the argument, whether to have it or not to have it. And I've gone back and forth on this. I still think you should have it, because if they make the mistake of trying to give you a phone call, we've got an issue at that point. And I don't want you to be caught in that awkward situation where someone tries to call you on the phone and you have no way to handle that. But the other thing is, I do think, to her point as well, that you could possibly land a job because of that, trying to meet certain quotas. But I think the other thing is, I don't think that there should be any disability that hinders you in your job search, and especially in tech, because most of these jobs can be done at home or remote. And and you've easily demonstrated you are a very effective communicator in your profile, I think that would absolutely deter and get rid of any biased thoughts. That's just my opinion. And I've gone back and forth on this, but I do think you should be able to put that on there without having any doubts or feeling awkward and things like that. I know we spoke about this at length yesterday, but I just wanted to really give some deep thought to it, and I really went into this. I think you should be okay with that. But I do understand the idea as well of implicit bias. We can't control how certain people feel, and I hate that. But I get it.
And then that brings up two more points. Do you really want to work for a company that is going to be biased against you because you are deaf?
Exactly.
And then another one is, normally I tend to either email or message people instead of just call them, because I don't even know their schedule. So maybe I call and it's at a bad time. So that's probably one of the reasons I didn't even think, oh, they might just call.
Yeah. That is true. I would rather have it on there, and if there is a company that is biased, I wouldn't want to go through that process. Why would you want to interview with a company that is biased and then find out in the interview process, like, oh, you're deaf? I don't want to deal with you. I wouldn't even want them even knowing my name after that conversation. So I'd rather get rid of them from the front end anyway. All right. And so we have Mr. JC Smiley. I know Mr. Smiley very well. So what do we think about this landing section?
I really like it. So when I look at this, I see instantly a leader, somebody who is ready to step up. I see that we are front end and developer, but I would like to know what kind just straight off the bat. But other than that, I really like this.
I agree. I originally was a leader with this group called Code Connector that he is also a leader with, and he's organized some very fantastic meetups. And we both have a passion for helping beginner developers. I would, I, and this is just between me and JC, I would probably change this wording up slightly uh, from tech meetup organizer to maybe something along the lines of meetup organizer and instructor or something like that, because you really are not just organizing these meetups, you're teaching people how to code. Like, you're giving them very valuable skills. I just want to express that besides just saying, well, I organize a meetup. You're a very big part of that community, and I would love to express that. And he's actually well, we'll get to that. I don't want to throw any bias there. So we have our about section here. What do we think about this?
Sorry, it's a little hard for me to read because I'm looking at a very teeny tiny screen and I'm
Okay,
blind. So it wasn't really.
so we have our skills. Let me try and zoom this in. Is that any better?
Yes, much better. Thank you so much. All right. I still am at the point to where I would still really like, what he's looking for in the future. What does he want to do? I do like that he was able to put he is a leader and co-founder, his volunteer with Memphis Google developers. I like a lot of that, just a little bit more of what your future plan is.
I agree. Let me back out. Personally, I would shorten this up ever so slightly. I would also get rid of this because if you notice in this section of the contact info, you will have your email address there. So they will definitely get that. And he also volunteers with my meetup group as well, GDG Memphis. So now we're at our featured section. He has his resume first. I because I know him, I know what these are. So he created an application for a car museum that he sold, that he did freelance on the side. And you'll see my beautiful face right there. That is one of the meetups that we did. And that was another meetup as well. So what do we think about his featured section?
Don't think I would put the resume first, to be honest. If you want it in your feature section, that's okay, but I'd put it all the way back. These projects that we have on here are excellent. I would have those first.
I completely agree. And I've said this time and time again. Your resume does not belong in your featured section at all. Your featured section is your hook. And you have all these great photos. I would be utilizing them as the eye candy that they are to get them to click somewhere else. And you just have this plain black and white text here. And you can literally add your resume, as we saw in Danny's LinkedIn profile, in the experience section where they can click on it to make the resume pop up. I would not waste this valuable real estate here. I think you're really hurting yourself right here. I would get rid of that. Then we have his activity feed. Do you ever go through someone's activity feed, like their post, or is that something that you don't really consider?
Sometimes I do if I scroll and it's something that is eye-catching. I might click on it, but if it's not going to be eye-catching or right away, then I just tend to scroll past it.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the reason why I like putting content there is your content attracts views. So if you put content there, a hiring manager may see that post and then they come to your profile. But I've never really gone through someone's activity feed unless I've like, oh, this is a really awesome person. Let's see what kind of stuff they post about. Otherwise, not really. Now, as we see here, he's a gaming agent. He works for the police department and is an agent for the casinos. So that is why at the top he has front end developer, but I would have the languages there because as they come here and see you're a gaming agent, has nothing to do with tech.
Well,
So he's been there for 13 years. What do we think?
Angular JS, Node Express, we're still using technology. And when we just see gaming agent, it doesn't make you instantly think still technology.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal developer, but he's created applications for his job to make his job easier. So he's created application system for creating active cases. So instead of going through files and paperwork, they can literally go through this application now, the entire company, and see which cases are currently active and pending. So even if you're in the field, you can now enter this information and see that. The problem is, I know this because I know who JC Smiley is.
Mhm.
None of this is really conveyed in a great way here. And I think it's a disservice. And to be honest, I would almost, I'm all about being very, very honest with what you do. I would make a section right on top here, concurrent with your gaming agent, and say freelance developer, because you made these for these companies and you can list these applications underneath it. Because as a gaming agent, I don't think anyone's looking at this to see that you were doing AngularJS and Heroku and Node. Would you
Well, and
agree or disagree?
what you explained is amazing, but when I look at this, I don't get that same like, oh my God, he did all of that. And so, yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we should have a freelancing developer on here as well.
I think this is a total rework, and I'm glad that I saw this because we will rework this whether JC wants to or not. No, I'm just kidding. But we will rework this because I think you're hurting yourself in a big way right here. And then we have where he's done meetups with me before, pictures from our meetups that we've done. What do we think about this?
I like it, but I would like maybe a little bit about what the meetups are about. I do see, we talk about developer technology, which is great, but what are we talking?
Yeah, I think one thing that he's lacking is, especially with him having an active role in the community, I would discuss or at least list teaching beginners how to code, providing learning resources, getting talented speakers that are developers from across the country. Like, I would be listing that besides providing resources for aspiring developers, creating a comfortable, inclusive environment. Even though this is a good point, I would keep that there. I would just add a couple more above this. And that's for both of these because he's a very valuable member of our community. I think he needs to highlight this slightly better. But I do like these pictures though. I like, and I would keep them there. He was also a TA for a coding bootcamp.
Mhm.
Same thing with the photos, which I think is great. A mobile application developer that he did as basically this freelance job. And to be honest, I would rank this higher because you've been at this job for 13 years. I would put that at the bottom since that's 2007. Even though it's your most current and active role, I would still put that at the bottom and highlight your tech achievements up top. And then we have his education, we have a cert, then we have volunteer experience, which he has a ton of. We do. I don't know in Pennsylvania. I don't know if we have this, but we have a thing called Give Camp Memphis, and there's give camps all over the country where we donate. Every available developer donates a weekend of time, and our goal is to create as many websites for nonprofits as we can. So we create websites for their business, software to help them streamline things because they're not making money. So why should we ask them to invest there? And then we also get sponsors so we can donate all of the money to make sure we take care of the server costs and hosting fees and things like that. So he has donated his time for the last several years, helping out countless nonprofits. I think he's only listed one, and I know he was just at the last one that we had a couple months ago, so I would update that. But just in case you're in an area, I would suggest Googling to see if you have a gift camp because it's a great organization to donate your time to for a weekend a year. But so for volunteer experience, what do we think about this? Is this good? Is it bad?
I like it. It says a little bit of what the application is and what they did. So I think this is really good volunteer.
The only thing I would do is, and I see here he used WordPress or something like that.
Mhm.
I would still list other technologies that you were involved in, like Webpack and things like that. Well, he did HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I would not just say just a developer, but like, what was your role in that website? Was it the front end? Was it the back end? Did you use, if you used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I'll throw JavaScript developer, something that's matching a search term. Then we have our skills and endorsements. We have a review that I wrote for him, and we have the projects. And back to what I said before, I would have some of these projects above, and I know you have a couple, but I would have some more above because no one's really going to be looking through this. And he's written countless articles, and he's got his publications there. All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, removing my bias and my back-end information that I gave to explain points, what do we think about JC Smiley's profile?
So I'd probably give it a 4, mostly because at first I'm really interested, but when I start reading about it, I'm not sure how it's going to match to what I need.
I'm being very honest, and JC knows I love him very much. This is absolutely a 2 for me. You would not get a phone call the way it is currently set up. I think you are shooting yourself in the foot in several places, especially with this, because these projects I know are phenomenal, and no one's thinking a gaming agent is creating this code. I would create freelance developer, and I would encompass all of this in there. So you would not get a call back as hiring manager looking for a front end developer right now. But with those tweaks, I definitely think if you do the tweaks the way I'm suggesting, I think you are going to be a 7 or a strong 8 for sure. Because this is the highlight of your whole page right here. This and your featured section minus this is perfect. So we will be working on that.
Just reading this, I would be like, okay, let's move on. But as you're telling me all this background, I'm like, I would have missed out on something incredible.
Yeah, it's not there. It's not there. All right. And so now we have Catlin Pitt. Catlin, he's in the UK by way of Romania. So what do we think about our landing area?
I like it. Nothing really jumps out to me. Full stack developer again. I'm not sure what kind of full stack developer. There's multiple different kinds. Are we looking at front end with back end? Are we looking databasing, so on? But past that, I mean, I would continue looking. Like,
all right.
And profile.
we have a question that I just want to ask. Hi, is it important how much time did you work any specific job? Even though, unfortunately, do you have a time without a job? So I'm guessing the question is, does it matter how long you worked at any job? And if you have a gap in your work history, does that matter?
So timelines do tend to matter, especially if we're looking at 6 months here, 6 months there. If you're working on a contract base, I would definitely say on there contracted, because we know that, okay, that's going to be a 12 months to 6 month hire. If it looks like you're jumping jobs a lot, it kind of makes us a little worried about talking to you. For a gap, sometimes I tend not to worry about it. We all have a life, we have situations. Who knows where you have been? Sometimes you can even make your gap worth something. So if you decided to, and just for example, be a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years with your kids, you could actually make that work into your resume in a type of way. But some people worry about gaps. I tend not to. I would still call.
Another question is, if you haven't finished college, but you have years of college courses, would that need to be listed? So basically, in the education section, would you list a college that you did not complete?
No, I personally wouldn't. If I did a couple of years at one and then a couple of years in another, I might put both of them. But what really matters is the college that you graduated from.
And to kind of piggyback on that, I agree. But LinkedIn is a place where you only highlight your strengths. You want to kind of remove doubt from anyone's mind here. Dropping out of college or not going to college, what do you think would show a weaker standpoint? Personally, I think if you dropped out, it means, oh, you couldn't complete it, you couldn't keep your grades up, you're not a good learner. I would want to remove all that doubt and just not even list it. Personally, you can do it whatever you think is best. If you think it's great to have it there, have it there. I personally would not list it. That's just me on that. I want to leave that opening for that line of questioning.
And I've hired people that haven't finished with a bachelor's before, but really good in development. So I would probably do the same, as not put the incomplete college, but the experience that I made as a developer.
Absolutely, because you can go over the education with showing your technical prowess and skill. So I wouldn't even be looking. I'd be showing off all my projects, and I wouldn't consider the education part. All right, and so we have our about section here.
Full stack developer. Thank you.
I keep forgetting. Because on my screen, this is huge. So I'm like, I can't see the rest of the page.
I'm making you work extra.
It's fine.
So I'm not so sure about this about me part.
Okay. What do we think that we should have instead? What looks better to us?
So I'm kind of trying to pinpoint it, and I'm not sure why it's hard for me. I do like how we talked about the skills that we have, but I'm not getting anything as to why this is useful for me. Okay, great. You've done JavaScript, Node.js, but I'm not sure how that would correlate to what I would like.
I agree to a certain degree. I do like this, but I think you're missing in demonstrating some kind of value. I think you're just literally saying that you work on a big web application with millions of people and you specialize in this. I think this could be reworded. I do like this section though personally, but I don't think everybody would. But for me, I do. Featured section. The only thing we have is GitHub. What do we think about that?
I mean, so I started programming, so this might be something I'll look into. However, I don't always get profiles just by myself. I have a company that gives me profiles, and so they will have absolutely no idea what to do with this GitHub.
I agree, and I would want to have a couple projects there personally.
Yeah.
Or not even projects, but at least projects or accomplishments or things that you're proud of that will help you stand out. That's what I would be looking for over here.
Absolutely.
So we have his activities, make some posts. And so now we have, this is his, basically none of his jobs listed here have any details.
I would just kind of bypass it. I think I would do one scan and just go on to the next.
Yeah, I think you're losing a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have his degrees, which are great, endorsements, which are great. His projects, we've got the weather app and all that. I would have the projects up above, like I've said before,
Okay.
and then interest. So I think we're missing a lot here. We're missing a lot. We're missing everything in this section. We're a lot is becoming clear because again, I know Catalan, and certain things are becoming clear why he ends up in certain searches. But I think, and also, I wouldn't even have your company name here unless you're working at like a world famous company like Microsoft, Google. Like, this is not doing you any favors here unless someone's like, I want to know who all the employees of Reach PLC are. So if I'm searching for that company name, then you'll pop up, okay, cool. Otherwise, you've got it here, you've got it down below, you're smacking me in the face with your company name. I would get rid of that here and list what your specialization is. You're a full stack developer utilizing Node, if that's what you want to be searched for, or AWS, or whatever it may be. I would have that there. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what do we think about Catalan?
I would say a 1.
I think it's in that ballpark. Unfortunately, I don't think this would get a phone call. I think you're lacking everything necessary to make that a very interesting situation for an employer or a manager to go off of. There's not enough information to make a decision. All right. And we've got Mr. Devin Ford. this is where we land. What do we think?
Um, so far so good. The first part though, I would love in the about me, anybody putting something like this, becoming a self-taught developer at 30. I mean, items like this is huge because this shows that you are willing to learn and you're going to push yourself and you will continue in technology this way. But here I would like to see more. What kind of technology? Are you full stack? Are you just Java, etc., whatever it is?
So before I mention mine, what do we think about his header? Obviously, he's created that himself. What do we
Um,
think? Says doing favors for him, not doing favors for him?
I like it. It's okay. I would just bypass it. We can't really use it because I can't click on the LinkedIn or Twitter or anything like that. So that kind of loses that, but it's okay. It's not bad.
So I am slightly different on this. I think you are hurting yourself by having this. No one is searching as far as search terms goes. No one's saying, let me find the self-taught developer. Let me find the aspiring developer. Let me find the one that's writing about what they're doing. You can have this anywhere else. But here, when someone is going through the list of candidates that they just searched for, and they see this, let's say I'm searching for a React developer, and you end up in that list of people. I've just skipped over you because you haven't told me that you're a React developer or a front-end developer. You haven't discussed, and I understand you're self-taught or you're an aspiring developer. Get rid of that. If you can make a website, you're a developer, leave the developer title and what you know next to it. I think that will make this a lot more valuable than what it currently is now. And I totally get the self-taught part. This is not the area for it, though, in my opinion.
Agreed. And that's why I said I wouldn't mind that the about me, but I would take away the becoming part. I did kind of went over that. Say I am a self-taught developer because you are. It's just you're still learning, and we all are. No matter who's in technology, we are still learning.
Yeah, I have a very famous thing that I say all the time. You know, as far as JavaScript goes, when I started learning JavaScript, I was like, "Hey, I'm learning JavaScript," and it's been 3 years now, and I'm still learning JavaScript. Like, it's once you say you're a developer, you're on a lifelong journey of learning. Like, it never stops, it never ends. The day you say you know everything in development is the day where we no longer have a conversation, because I know developers that have been in this industry for 30 years and they still say they're learning all the time. It changes every year. All right. So we have our about section. What do we think about this?
Um, okay, yes and no. Mostly on the no side. So give me more about where you want to go. So I'm assuming that he wants to go more into technology. Well, let's talk about technology. What have you done with computers? What is your expectation for the next few years? What technologies are you kind of going for? And I do see a few of them like JavaScript, Node. Um, I would stick more to, okay, I am in development and this is where I'm going to go in development.
Yeah, I agree. I do like that you have written your specificallys, but you have a passion for computer. I'm sure you have a passion for computers. I would have expected that from the beginning. You don't need to write that, and especially talking about your early teens, like that. This is biography level versus this is the value I can bring. I do like that it's short and sweet, but I think we're missing the mark here, and we can definitely improve this section tremendously. All right, and now we're in our featured section. What do we think about this? So it looks like that's his GitHub. This looks like his portfolio site and a list of article that he wrote, and then his resume.
Um, I would have definitely liked to see maybe a web page or something you've really worked on. I think most of this just looks like screenshots, but I can't really tell from just looking at it. Um, Other than that, I think it's okay. I just don't think I would click on any of these, to be honest.
Yeah, so I know this is his portfolio, but I will tell you, if I'm just glancing, that is not the first thing that I come up with. So we may want to try and get a different image, or maybe even right over the image portfolio site. So that way it's very
Mhm.
obvious that that's what that is. And instead of having your GitHub here, I would have a direct link to one of your projects. So
Absolutely.
that way you have a very tangible and a very easy to access project there, personally, or any other achievement for that matter. If you have some other achievement that you're proud of, that's fantastic as well. I would list that. But overall, this is not terrible. This is not terrible. It just can definitely be improved upon.
And in the future, don't worry about putting your favorite project you've done, one that you can sit there and talk for hours on, because you might have to. Bragging is not bad, especially with resumes. Brag as much as you possibly can.
I always say it's very powerful when someone else toots your horn for you, but this is the one place where it is completely okay to be braggadocious because that's what you need to be.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have our experience here, and what do we think about this?
Um, it's a lot at once. I tend not to like paragraphs because I just get bored easily and just move on.
I agree. I'm going to be honest with you, and especially with the recruiter that we had yesterday, Eric Gong. He literally said, I have the shortest attention span possible. If you make me work for it, I've already gone to the next candidate. And
Mhm.
I feel like this is a lot of sifting through work. I would highly, highly, highly fix that, get some action points down. I see a couple of action points that I'm glancing at, but I would redo all this. I do like that you've kept the consistency, but I would definitely move to bullet points here for sure. I think this is hurting you. But by the way, I do appreciate all the work that you've been doing as a police officer. As a police emergency dispatch and public safety and telecommunicator. Thank you for all that. You're doing some great civil work. I would highlight the things that you're doing, though.
Absolutely.
All right, and then we have his schooling, and he went to
Mhm.
the Zerto Mastery Academy, and then he has his certs. Uh, So he's going for a technology job, but all of his certs are in something that has nothing to do with technology. Would you list that or would you leave that?
See, it won't hurt to list, but right now, going through his whole profile, I don't see a developer at all. I see somebody
Yeah.
who's worked in law enforcement. It's good to keep this because it definitely gives you that leadership thought process, but we need something more that pushes you towards programming.
Yeah. And to be honest, I would even, and I don't normally advocate for this, but the problem is we have nothing showing any projects. I would have done something where we at least list something. So even if I were to write here, developer student, and here are some of my projects, or something somewhere besides saying, I'm a student that's learning, but my day job is in telecommunications. You need to have more. There's not enough meat.
And that's what I would do. Keep a lot of this, but at least on the top one, we need something like that. Programs that you've worked on as being a student, things that you have listed. Sometimes, even when you're going to school, you help with their websites or you help somewhere else. You'll have things that you can actually put on there. So definitely do that, especially just starting out.
Absolutely. Also, no volunteer experience. If you can, I'll throw that in there just because. And I'm going to show my profile next, and I am going to show you what I did as someone who my previous experience is literally frying chicken in gas stations. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did to combat the issue of not having anything technology related to help me stand out a little bit. So overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do we think about Devin?
I'm really sorry to say, but a one.
Yeah, it's low. But I think if you make these improvements that we're suggesting, this is easily a 6. I mean, I think you would get a phone call if you make some quick adjustments. I think you've lost it in a couple areas, but overall, you have the potential to definitely get a phone call where you need it. All right, so this is my profile. So our landing, what do we think? Now, to preface this, the internet being the internet, I've had to hide my company's information because I literally had people calling me and calling my job saying, I know Danny, can you give me a job? And these were people I've never spoken to in my life. I also had to hide my phone number. So because of that, this is my profile. What do we think about this section?
I like this. It makes me think you're very close to home. You do a lot for home, especially with the Memphis picture in the background. I do like instantly we have leader, Java software engineer. I like that a lot.
Yeah, normally this would be my company's name. So if I start looking for a job, my company's name will be there and everybody will know that at that time. But until then, I'm very content. It's my dream job and I don't see myself moving anywhere anytime soon. All right, so this is my about section. So what do we think here?
I like it. It's very short, sweet, and to the point, but I would still like to see where you want to go. So you want to lead more people. You want to bring more developers into the world. You are very on that. So that's a great thing to put in the about me.
Yeah, the only reason why it's not there currently, normally when I know what jobs that I'm searching for or trying to ascertain, I have my first line, my second line, it's in between the experienced leader section and the skilled in solving problem section, saying what I'm trying to go for, whether it's a management role, whether it's a software developer role, whatever it may be, that's what I normally have there. So previously I founded our group, so I had founder experience in that center section. And that was leading me to a lot of management roles. Now my featured section. So this is when I spoke. I was a guest speaker at Google. This is where I spoke at a prison full of prisoners that are learning how to code. And this is when I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. What do we think about here?
I would instantly think of you in a leader position. And if that's what you were going for, this would be perfect.
Exactly. Now, I don't normally show my metrics, but here's my metrics to kind of let you know that I at least know something that I'm talking about. This week alone, I've ended up in over almost 649 job searches. I've been contacted countless times for positions, so they're converting, and that's the key for me. If you're getting job searches, but you're not receiving correspondence, even from the pushy, annoying recruiters, you're not converting them. That means they're coming to your profile and realizing, oh, this is not a good fit at all. And then they're leaving. The conversion is what matters. So I don't care even if you get 10 searches, but if you're converting half, that means you got a 50% conversion rate. That's a very good metric. But if you have 1,000 searches and you have zero correspondence, you're dropping the ball and you need to rework what's happening. So utilize these numbers for you. My last post, almost 2,000 views, profiles, 5,000 views. Now these are over 90 days, and this is your last post, obviously, but this changes every single week. So if you're noticing those numbers are going down, rework it. If you notice the numbers are going up, that means you're popping up in more searches. But if you're not hearing back from anyone, you're not converting. So I don't care how high this number goes, but if you're not converting, that's terrible. And just to give you an idea, last week this was 515, so I jumped up 150. So that lets you know. But I'm with that 150 jump, on an average day I get about 100 messages on LinkedIn. So it's converting and the people are coming over. That's when you know you're cooking. And with me not even looking for a job, I don't pay attention to most of these messages unless they're people within my personal network. But that's where you have your metrics there. Then the followers, which don't really matter at all. So this is what I did. I went from the gas station and I realized, okay, I have no experience in tech. What can I do? So I went ahead and became a leader in a local meetup group for tech. So we were teaching people how to code. I was working in the gas station, not even in tech. So I didn't really do a lot of technical teaching, but I did a lot of advice and networking for people. And that is when I came into the idea of most people that go to a meetup have the exact same experience that I have. We ask the exact same questions every single time. How do you get the first job in tech? And I heard the exact same answer over and over and over again. Oh, the first job is the hardest thing that you're ever going to find. Sorry, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to find. But after you find the first one, everything after that becomes very easy. For me, this was the worst answer I could have ever heard in my life, because not only did you demotivate and demoralize me, but you've given me nothing to work on. But I quickly realized every single other person at that meetup heard the exact same answer. That is when I created a LinkedIn. I never had a LinkedIn before. I created the LinkedIn and I started cold messaging and calling hiring managers, recruiters, and network people. And in the beginning, they're like, who is this guy? And now they're like, oh, I knew Danny from the beginning. But I had to give them a reason to like me. And by creating that network, that is how I've helped almost 70 people land their first jobs in tech. And I can do this in our community. I can't do it all over the world. Unfortunately, I'm trying. But as far as Memphis and our surrounding areas go, we've got the hiring network now in place to whereas when someone is looking for a developer, we have a place to put them in. And it's through the meetup. So if you got a local meetup that you can volunteer at, or a local community that you can at least be a part of, and you can take photos at the meetup and you show what you're working on and you're networking with other developers, those are things I would show on your profile. And that lets people know, oh, this person is passionate about what they're doing because outside of work hours, they've still made the commitment to go to a meetup. Obviously, it's a little hard now with everything being virtual. I would still take screenshots of the meetups that I'm at to showcase that I am here and I'm learning. And then from this group, I started GDG Memphis. I was the founder of this group, and we're backed by Google developers, and we get speakers from all over the countries and sponsors and la da 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 da. But I got that. I go from there. I got some Udemy certs, but I just honestly I threw it up there whenever I got them. But I know this has converted nobody. So I mean it's just there. But if I do get like an AWS cert or something like that, then I will prioritize that over anything else. Then this is my volunteer experience where I've done homeless shelters. I volunteered with Law Fit, where it's a statewide competition, and Shop with the Cop, where people for our very low income areas that cannot afford to have a Christmas, they go with a police officer to a toy store and they buy a bunch of toys and then are escorted to their home. So that way, everything looks good, kosher, and all that good stuff. So I was assisted with that as well. And I actually have more volunteer experience that I need to put on there now that I think about it. But for the most part, we've got that. Our skills and endorsements, recommendations, which, got a couple in there, my languages that I speak. And I'm a STEM advisor for our school system. And I'm helping to write our curriculum for our high school now. So I have that listed as well. I don't really want to kind of show that, though, for privacy reasons. But overall scale of 1 to 10, what do we think about this profile?
I would give you an 8, a 9. Absolutely.
So just and if anyone in the chat, if you want to link with me, go ahead. I accept all the requests for the most part. If you DM me, I'm probably not going to reply, just being honest. It's just because I won't see it. There's just too many. But with that being said, I hope this is something that has helped you. And if anyone in the chat has any questions, please ask them. I see a few messages that I've missed. Let me look here real fast. How does someone, if you want to submit your name for your LinkedIn reviews or resume reviews, follow me on Twitter at DThompsonDev. And I announce every stream that I do, and people throw their LinkedIns and resumes there. And as long as I have your consent to put it on the stream, I have no problem reviewing that. That's easy for me to do. All right, and okay, nothing really related to what we're doing. So if you want to ask a question, you have the opportunity now. Otherwise, I think we will go ahead and call this. Is there any last things that you would like to discuss, talk about, Kirsten?
The biggest thing is just to let you know, I did the same thing to where I started at Taco Bell and then made my way up to engagement manager with software engineering. The way this worked for me was a lot of meeting up with people, talking to them, and seeing where the next step is to go. Don't be afraid to brag. I know it may sometimes be embarrassing and you don't want to go that way. I say brag so much, it would make you embarrassed to say it out loud. You guys will get this. It's always really hard the first time, but you have somebody really good teaching you and leading the way, and I think it'll be going well.
Thank you guys in the chat. I'm just glad, and I really, really hope that we are able to help some people fix their profiles. If we didn't get to yours, definitely follow me, and we will. And if we haven't gotten to yours, this same advice pretty much applies across the board, whether you're junior developer or senior developer, whether you're male, female, whatever, there are a variety of things that you can be, and this advice is very clear cut and it goes for anyone. You can list your job criteria exactly the same. You can list your profile data exactly the same. It's very valuable in that respect, I believe. All right, I think we are going to call this one. This has been great. So, Kirsten Johnson, engagement manager, thank you for doing this with me and taking this time. I genuinely appreciated you being here. You were beyond phenomenal. I think your insight is second to none, and I think it shows. And I really, really hope everyone in the chat follows it. I think you've given some incredible tips, especially in regards to listing your job experience. Any last words?
Thank you guys so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
And if you have the availability again, I would love to do something with you in the future. Maybe even if we have a panel of managers that I'm considering doing, I would love to reach out to you for that.
Yeah, anytime.
Absolutely. I love this. All right, chat. We are out of here.